This enormous unsecured island is actually part of North America, on the northern frontier of the Western Hemisphere. That's our territory.
I want to talk about what just took place on the world stage in Davos, Switzerland at the World Economic Forum. Donald Trump just gave a meandering lunatic speech threatening our peaceful allies. And this message, this video, this topic is as much for Americans as it is, maybe more so, for a global foreign audience. That it is no longer time to deal with Donald Trump with kid gloves or to laugh at his fucking jokes or to treat his dementia as some kind of a novelty. You are now at threat. We are now the bad guys on a global stage. We are now Russia. We are now Hungary. We are now China. We are now North Korea. We are the despot on the stage. We are now treating Venezuela and Greenland and Canada and Colombia and Panama and Cuba as Nigeria, Iran, name a fucking country. We are now the Russia to Ukraine and Crimea. That's what we are, except on a far grander scale because of the fact that we fund our military to the tune of $1 trillion annually. $1,000 billion. There are country after country. There's a list of countries that don't have a GDP for their entire nation that totals $1 trillion. Switzerland, for one. Saudi Arabia, I think, has barely over $1 trillion GDP. And Donald Trump took to the global stage to crack his little joke. Do you guys want me to talk about Greenland? While leveling not even veiled threats against them, talking constantly. I have 4 clips here. One is he forgets. He confuses Iceland and Greenland. That one's like 45 seconds. And then I've got 3 others. And listen, this gets dry. I know this is Donald Trump. I know that it's irritating, but stick with me here. Even if you're skipping through the clips, get through to the end where we can talk about where the danger lies here, how we are now the bad guys on a global stage. We are not the good guys. We've claimed for generations to be the good guys. Even in this, Donald Trump talks about how we won World War II, and without us, you'd be speaking German or a little bit of Japanese. He's a moron. He's a dangerous fucking lunatic. So stick with me because this is important. Let's begin with our demented lunatic of a president. And I know I keep saying lunatic, but there's no better word to describe Donald Trump. The megalomaniacal lunatic, the sociopath with psychopathic tendencies. Here he is confusing the country that he wants to be the subject, the object, the target of his imperialist conquest. Is it Iceland or is it Greenland?
But the problem with NATO is that we'll be there for them 100%. But I'm not sure that they'd be there for us. If we gave them the call, gentlemen, we are being attacked. We're under attack by such and such a nation. I know them all very well. I'm not sure that they'd be there. I know we'd be there for them. I don't know that they'd be there for us. So with all of the money we expend, with all of the blood, sweat, and tears, I don't know that they'd be there for us. They're not there for us on Iceland, that I can tell you. I mean, our stock market took the first dip yesterday because of Iceland. So Iceland's already cost us a lot of money. But that dip is peanuts compared to what it's gone up.
First of all, it wasn't the first dip in the stock market, Donald Trump. The first dip was a crash when you announced your global tariffs, taxing Americans and increasing inflation in the United States. Yeah. Let's get into this. Let's go a few minutes back from that moment that you just witnessed, where Donald Trump is using the power and weight and the width and the breadth and the might of the American military as a cudgel, as a threat against not our enemies, not against North Korea, not against Russia, not against actual global threats, but against our peaceful allies in his quest, his conquest of imperialism to acquire, by force if necessary, the nation of Greenland.
Would you like me to say a few words of Greenland? I was going to leave it out of the speech, but I thought I think I would have been reviewed very negatively. I have tremendous respect for both the people of Greenland and the people of Denmark, tremendous respect. But every NATO ally has an obligation to be able to defend their own territory. And the fact is, no nation or group of nations is in any position to be able to secure Greenland other than the United States. We're a great power, much greater than people even understand. I think they found that out 2 weeks ago in Venezuela. We saw this in World War II, when Denmark fell to Germany after just 6 hours of fighting and was totally unable to defend either itself or Greenland. So the United States was then compelled, we did it, we felt an obligation to do it, to send our own forces to hold the Greenland territory, and hold it we did at great cost and expense. They didn't have a chance of getting on it, and they tried. Denmark knows that. We literally set up bases on Greenland for Denmark. We fought for Denmark. We weren't fighting for anyone else. We were fighting to save it for Denmark. Big, beautiful piece of ice. It's hard to call it land. It's a big piece of ice. But we saved Greenland and successfully prevented our enemies from gaining a foothold in our hemisphere. So we did it for ourselves also. And then after the war, which we won it big. Without us, right now you'd all be speaking German and a little Japanese, perhaps. After the war, we gave Greenland back to Denmark. How stupid were we to do that? But we did it. But we gave it back. But how ungrateful are they now?
No one can do it better than us. You don't even understand how mighty our military is. Greater than people even understand. I think they found out 2 weeks ago when we attacked Venezuela. And then the whole German and Japanese thing, which, by the way, is a misunderstanding. It is something that the Freedom Fries Party in the United States, we're not going to call them French fries anymore. We're going to call them Freedom Fries. This is the same kind of a moron take about the history of our globe and the events that have taken place that people who are stupid believe. That we single-handedly won the war, and without us, you'd be speaking German. That's something that some kind of a MAGA moron says with no clear understanding of history whatsoever. If you want to look at who actually was the major push in winning World War II, if we're going to give out participation trophies like Donald Trump loves, it would be Russia. Russia bore the brunt of the fatalities, and Russia was the one who depleted the forces of Nazi Germany through the attrition of their own forces. It wasn't us. Yeah, we helped, but it wasn't we weren't the decisive winners of World War II. But how ungrateful are they now? We gave it back. We never possessed Greenland. We never did anything. We never possessed it in a way that would give us a position to give it back. Defending your friends and neighbors is what good friends and neighbors do. They don't owe us something for coming to their aid. They don't owe us something for preventing Germany from acquiring Greenland. That's as much in our best interest as it was theirs. But Donald Trump isn't a good friend. He isn't a good neighbor. Everything's transactional with this fucking ghoul. Let's move on to the second clip where, again, he continues the not-so-veiled threats of using the might of the United States military against our peaceful allies.
But we gave it back. But how ungrateful are they now? So now our country and the world face much greater risks than it did ever before because of missiles, because of nuclear, because of weapons of warfare that I can't even talk about. 2 weeks ago, they saw weapons that nobody ever heard of. They weren't able to fire one shot at us. They said, what happened? Everything was discombobulated. They said, we've got them in our sights. Press the trigger, and nothing happened. no anti-aircraft missiles went up. There was one that went up about 30 feet and crashed down right next to the people that sent it. They said, what the hell is going on? Those defensive systems were made by Russia and by China. So they're going to go back to the drawing boards, I guess. Greenland is a vast, almost entirely uninhabited and undeveloped territory that's sitting undefended in a key strategic location between the United States, Russia, and China. That's exactly where it is, right smack in the middle. Wasn't important nearly when we gave it back. You know, when we gave it back, it wasn't the same as it is now. It's not important for any other reason, you know, everyone talks about the minerals. There's so many places. There's no rare earth, no such thing as rare earth. There's rare processing, but there's so much rare earth. And to get to this rare earth, you got to go through hundreds of feet of ice. That's not the reason we need it. We need it for strategic national security and international security. This enormous unsecured island is actually part of North America, on the northern frontier of the Western Hemisphere. That's our territory. It is therefore a core national security interest of the United States of America. And in fact, it's been our policy for hundreds of years to prevent outside threats from entering our hemisphere, and we've done it very successfully. We've never been stronger than we are now.
Because of the missiles, because of nuclear, because of weapons of warfare that I can't even talk about, he says. 2 weeks ago, they sold the weapons that nobody's ever heard of. They weren't able to fire a shot at us. We're so powerful. We're so mighty. We're so advanced. We're so skilled. We're so well trained. We can take you out and you won't even know what to do. He levels threats against our allies, while claiming that without him, there would be no NATO. And that because Greenland exists within the Western Hemisphere, it's ours. Canada, you exist within the borders of what we consider the Western Hemisphere of the globe. You're ours. Mexico, you're ours. Everything in the Western Hemisphere is the United States', apparently, because no one else can defend it like we can. No one else can defend anything like we can because we pay $1 trillion fucking for our military that is slowly morphing into loyal to Donald Trump and not the Constitution of the United States, with skinny, spindly-legged Pete Hegseth, the credibly accused rapist, as the Secretary of Defense. Here's clip 3. Wait for it, because he just kind of slides into a demented rant about his grievances, about the 2020 election being stolen, and spewing his nonsense conspiracy series over and over and over to a crowd of people who know he's lying. He's not convincing them. They are laughing at him. They're not with him. They are not with him. Nor should they be. Also, they shouldn't be chuckling it up at his dipshittery. He should be met with derision everywhere he goes. Watch this third clip.
We've never been stronger than we are now. That's why American presidents have sought to purchase Greenland for nearly 2 centuries. You know, for 2 centuries they've been trying to do it. They should have kept it after World War II, but they had a different president. That's all right. People think differently. Much more necessary now than it was at that time, however. In 2019, Denmark said that they would spend over $200 million to strengthen Greenland's defenses. But as you know, they spent less than 1% of that amount. 1%. There's no sign of Denmark there. And I say that with great respect for Denmark, whose people I love, whose leaders are very good. It's the United States alone that can protect this giant mass of land, this giant piece of ice, develop it and improve it and make it so that it's good for Europe and safe for Europe and good for us. And that's the reason I'm seeking immediate negotiations to once again discuss the acquisition of Greenland by the United States, just as we have acquired many other territories throughout our history. as many of the European nations have. They've acquired, there's nothing wrong with it. Many of them, some went in reverse, actually, if you look. Some had great, vast wealth, great, vast lands all over the world. They went in reverse. They're stuck back where they started. That happens too. But some grow. But this would not be a threat to NATO. This would greatly enhance the security of the entire alliance, the NATO alliance. The United States is treated very unfairly by NATO. I want to tell you that. And when you think about it, nobody can dispute it. We give so much and we get so little in return. And I've been a critic of NATO for many years. And yet I've done more to help NATO than any other president by far, than any other person. You wouldn't have NATO if I didn't get involved in my first term. The war with Ukraine is an example. We are thousands of miles away, separated by a giant ocean. It's a war that should have never started, and it wouldn't have started if the 2020 U.S. presidential election weren't rigged. It was a rigged election. Everybody now knows that. They found out. People will soon be prosecuted for what they did. It's probably breaking news, but it should be. It was a rigged election. You can't have rigged elections. You need strong borders, strong elections, and ideally a good press. I always say it. Strong borders, strong elections, free, fair elections, and a fair media. The media is terrible. It's very crooked. It's very biased, terrible. But someday it'll straighten out because it's losing all credibility. Think of it. When I went in a landslide, a giant landslide, won all 7 swing states, won the popular vote, won everything, and I only get negative press. That means that it has no credibility. And if they're going to get credibility, they're going to have to be fair. So you need a fair press. But you also need those other elements. And I inherited a terrible, terrible situation. If you look, the border was open. The inflation was raging. Everything was bad with the United States when I came into office.
You wouldn't even have NATO if it weren't for me. This is sociopathic. This is psychopathic behavior. This is lunatic talk from the President of the United States, a man with the nuclear codes, who the least educated, least informed, low information section of our populace sees as some kind of a golden god, a cult leader. Nothing he says can be questioned. You cannot exercise your First Amendment rights to question the president. Donald Trump is the man. He cannot be questioned. As he lies about the 2020 election, as he talks about there will be prosecutions. I know it went long. I want to hear from you, though. Please sound off in the comments below this video, wherever you're watching it. Subscribe to this YouTube channel. Like and follow the Facebook page. Share that content there natively. Help with the algorithm. I appreciate it very much. The algorithm, not algorithm. Maybe Donald Trump it's contagious. His lack of ability to speak articulately. Maybe so.
This bargain no longer works. Let me be direct. We are in the midst of a rupture, not a transition.
All right, let's stick with Davos. Let's stick with the world order here. Let's stick with leaders on a global stage who actually have the gumption and the leadership ability to call Donald Trump out on his shit. Now, Mark Carney here, the Prime Minister of Canada, our peaceful ally to the north, our neighbor, our good neighbor, filled with decent and loving people, accepting people. It is a nation that has placed empathy and politeness as it has become a trope about how apologetic and friendly Canadians are. It's stereotype for a Canadian to be super nice. Because it's true, largely. Obviously, they have their cross-section of dipshits in Western Canada. North of where I grew up in Idaho, you've got your individually, your toughness, you pull yourself up by your bootstrap racists. They have them there. But largely Canada is a land of beauty, both in geography, but also in the people there. And Mark Carney is no exception. He took to the stage at Davos in Switzerland at the World Economic Forum and talked about American hegemony, about leadership of America and how things used to be, but that can't be relied on anymore. There is no decency coming from the United States. In fact, if anything, there are threats emanating from their neighbor to the south, the United States. And Mark Carney, while not naming Donald Trump by name, absolutely calls this as it is. And I hope, here's my call to other world leaders, start treating Donald Trump like he is. Start acting as though there is a real threat to your countries, because Donald Trump is a modern day Hitler. You wouldn't sit around and laugh at the jokes of Hitler at a global forum like this. Certainly not knowing what we know now about Adolf Hitler, right? Well, Donald Trump is no different. He is imperialist. He is a conquest. He's a racist. He's rounding up black and brown people for the crime of being black and brown in the United States. Even citizens are not immune from this. So here is the Prime Minister of Canada really speaking more forcefully and accurately than any world leader that I've seen up to this point. And I, for one, am here for it.
For decades, countries like Canada prospered under what we called the rules-based international order. We joined its institutions, we praised its principles, we benefited from its predictability. And because of that, we could pursue values-based foreign policies under its protection. We knew the story of the international rules-based order was partially false, that the strongest would exempt themselves when convenient, that trade rules were enforced asymmetrically. And we knew that international law applied with varying rigor depending on the identity of the accused or the victim. This fiction was useful. And American hegemony in particular helped provide public goods, open sea lanes, a stable financial system, collective security, and support for frameworks for resolving disputes. So we placed the sign in the window. We participated in the rituals, and we largely avoided calling out the gaps between rhetoric and reality. This bargain no longer works. Let me be direct. We are in the midst of a rupture, not a transition. Over the past 2 decades, a series of crises in finance, health, energy, and geopolitics have laid bare the risks of extreme global integration. But more recently, great powers have begun using economic integration as weapons. Tariffs as leverage, financial infrastructure as coercion, supply chains as vulnerabilities to be exploited. You cannot live within the lie of mutual benefit through integration when integration becomes the source of your subordination. The multilateral institutions on which the middle powers have relied, the WTO, the UN, the COP, the architecture, the very architecture of collective problem solving are under threat. And as a result, many countries are drawing the same conclusions, that they must develop greater strategic autonomy in energy, food, critical minerals, in finance and supply chains. And this impulse is understandable.
This bargain no longer exists. The old world order, both economic and military, and the ally, the station of allies between nations no longer exists. The great powers that we once considered great, and I guess sometimes altruistic, no longer exist. We need to find new allies. We need to find new trade partners. We are being left in the dust by the rest of the world because Donald Trump wants to ally himself with countries like Russia, Hungary, the terrorist funding Saudi Arabia, Qatar. That's who he wants to be friends with. North Korea, maybe they're up next. China, he wants to be among countries that are of a global harm, that contribute to a destabilized planet, both economically and militarily, socially, culturally. Donald Trump wants to be an agent of chaos like he is, like he knows he can be. Because when the world is more unstable, he's able to put his thumb on it here and put his thumb on it here to make things better for himself so he can enrich himself. I'm going to talk later about the $1.5 billion almost that Donald Trump has profited himself in just 1 year as president of the United States. While MAGA, crickets. While Republican congressmen and senators, crickets. They're allowing him to be the dictator that he dreams to be because they have no loyalty to the United States. They have no fealty to the Constitution. They have no notion of respect for the oath, their own word that they gave to support and defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. Donald Trump is clearly that domestic threat to the Constitution. He's tweeted it. He's put it out on True Social that a fraud of this magnitude gives me the right to terminate all rules and regulations and articles up to and including the Constitution of the United States. And these fucking traitors side with him, the traitor, over their own oath to this document. These people who claim to be, I'm a libertarian type. I have full respect for this document. We need to follow to the letter of the law, the Constitution. While he runs roughshod over it. The civil rights, the human rights of individuals in our country. If Donald Trump is willing to round up black and brown people in this nation, what do you think he's willing to do to the people of Greenland or Canada or Colombia or Venezuela or Cuba or Panama or Mexico or Nigeria or Iran or Norway or Denmark or Iceland? We'll throw that one in since he got confused today. It's time for the world to start treating Donald Trump even more aggressively than Mark Carney did in this mild pushback. You will lose everything if you do not. We're already losing everything here because there's too many politicians, even Democrats, that won't do the right motherfucking thing. Chuck Schumer, resign as minority leader. You're doing nothing. We'd be better off not having a minority leader. Hakeem Jeffries, step aside, sir. You could just be a congressman from Brooklyn. We don't need you as the minority leader when you do nothing. We need a lot more than just flapping lips. We need action. When Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries are doing virtually the same thing I do, a man out of power, I have no power other than the reach of my audience, we're in a bad situation. Why is there not lawsuits day after day after day after day? Why is there not a press conference being given every single day of the damage that Donald Trump is doing? Every single day on the steps of the United States Capitol, here's what Donald Trump has done today. I don't know. More of this, less of the appeasing of the modern day Hitler. What do you think? I invite you to this conversation. Let's have it in the comments below this video. You can also call the voicemail line 714-576-4054. And of course, as always, you can email me daily@dollemore.com. Canada, you got a good one. Be proud. Be very pleased today at the performance of your prime minister because this is bravery in the face of a despot that leads the Earth's most mighty military that's ever existed. It's a good thing.
We started hearing from our police officers the same complaints as they fell victim to this while off duty. Every one of these individuals is a person of color.
While Donald Trump's imperialist conquest of the globe continues, it marches on day by day, threatening our peaceful allies in Europe. If you're not going to give me Greenland, I will threaten you. You saw what we did to Venezuela. We'll do it to everybody else too. What would we expect when not only is he assaulting black and brown people for the crime of being black and brown, walking up to black dudes getting gas, where are you born? Walking up to women on the sidewalk, where are you born? You must prove your legitimacy to be here. And they're doing it to citizens too, in both of those cases. But why would we expect Donald Trump to act any differently when even They are targeting local police in Minnesota, putting guns in their faces, drawing their weapons on fellow law enforcement with this idiot crew of ICE agents who are functionally illiterate, who can't pass open book tests, who are too fat to fit in uniforms, who have to get extra size flak jackets and protective gear because they don't meet physical standards of someone in this paramilitary force of Donald Trump, this masked secret police force of goons that is willy-nilly violating judges' orders, federal judges' orders, and pepper spraying and detaining American citizens who simply exercise their First Amendment right to protest. They're going after anybody who stands up to Donald Trump and his masked Gestapo force. And even cops are now speaking up. Mark Bruley is the police chief of Brooklyn Park, Minnesota. And they held a wide-ranging 27, 30-minute presser yesterday where he specifically, I want to highlight the things he said about what's taking place on the streets of these suburbs of Minneapolis in Minnesota at the hands of Donald Trump's masked secret police goons. And look, he's going to begin it by saying, look, we're not here to call for the abolition of ICE. You're fucking wrong. You should be. We don't need a private Gestapo force that is only loyal to Donald Trump, that only follows the edicts of Donald Trump, that only follows the orders of these Nazi credibly accused rapists of children. We don't need that. So you can save your loyalty to your brothers in blue. But the part that I do want you to pay attention to, because that could be absolutely just rejected out of hand. It's a nonsense argument that only people who are not fully loyal to the Constitution hold. What I do want you to pay attention to are the tales he's telling, the stories he's relaying about his own officers being assaulted, being drawn on with weapons to their faces by ICE agents. Again, back to blue, thin blue line. We're all in this together, right? Yeah, no.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Mark Bruley, Police Chief of the City of Brooklyn Park. Behind me is a bunch of amazing police chiefs that are here in support of a very short but very important message that we want to share with you. What you won't hear from any of us today is rhetoric of abolish ICE or that there shouldn't be immigration enforcement. The truth is, immigration enforcement is necessary for our national security and for local security. But how it's done is extremely important. In fact, we have a long history of working exceptionally well with our federal partners, including ICE agents. And we have seen the best of them perform their job extremely well in the past. With that said, recently, as the last 2 weeks, we as law enforcement community have been receiving endless complaints about civil rights violations in our streets from US citizens. What we're hearing is they're being stopped in traffic stops or on the street with no cause and being forced to demand paperwork to determine if they are here legally. As this went on over the past 2 weeks, we started hearing from our police officers the same complaints as they fell victim to this while off duty. Every one of these individuals is a person of color who has had this happen to them. In Brooklyn Park, one particular officer that shared her story with me was stopped as she passed ICE going down the roadway. When they boxed her in, they demanded her paperwork, of which she's a US citizen and clearly would not have any paperwork. When she became concerned about the rhetoric and the way she was being treated, she pulled out her phone. In an attempt to record the incident, the phone was knocked out of her hands, prevented her from recording it. The officer had their guns drawn during this interaction. And after the officer became so concerned, they were forced to identify themselves as a Brooklyn Park police officer in hopes of slowing the incident and de-escalating the incident down. The agents then immediately left after hearing this, making no other comments, no other apologies, just got in their vehicles and left. I wish I could tell you that this was an isolated incident. In fact, many of the chiefs standing behind me have similar incidents with their off-duty officers. This isn't just important because it happened to off-duty police officers. But what it did do is we know that our officers know what the Constitution is, they know what right and wrong is, and they know when people are being targeted. And that's what they were. If it is happening to our officers, it pains me to think of how many of our community members are falling victim to this every day. It has to stop.
They're not stopping white cops. They're not harassing white cops. They're not drawing on white cops. They're not pepper spraying white cops. They're not detaining white cops. It's black and brown people. Because this is a racist policy that Donald Trump is endeavoring. This is, without doubt, it's not even an inflammatory thing to say. Donald Trump, under the guise of white supremacy, is attempting to create a white ethno-state. We are allowing some refugees in, white South Africans, because of white genocide that is not taking place. It's a conspiracy theory by racists, by the white power movement. It's something that's been taught. White genocide, the great replacement theory, these are all things that were talked about in quiet, in whispers, in militia groups, at the Aryan Nation compound in northern Idaho, 2.5 hours from where I grew up. Not even 2.5 hours from where I grew up. And now people have the temerity to deny that that's what's taking place. They're eating the pets. They're eating the cats and the dogs, Donald Trump said of black people. They're stealing all the welfare. They're stealing all the welfare, Donald Trump says of Somalis. This is an attempt to cleanse the streets of Minnesota of black and brown people. If this was just targeted immigration, they wouldn't be harassing black and brown cops. They wouldn't be harassing American citizens who don't happen to have the right skin tone for Donald Trump. That is a fact. And now you've got cops who bend over backwards to defend the existence of ICE, while also saying, but they just need to do their jobs better. Apparently he's taken a page out of Cory Booker's playbook. No, we need ICE. We need ICE. They just need to be well trained. They need to be trained better at how to violate the rights of American citizens, to murder American citizens in the street, like RENEE Good. You think Donald Trump gives a fuck about any of that, Mark Bruley? About abiding by the Constitution and the laws set forth, the foundational principles of our country, of due process. You think he cares about any of that? If he's willing to have his personal, loyal to him, Proud Boy army, the masked secret police Gestapo, harass your cops, your employees, the thin blue line loyalty bullshit? Let's start dealing with reality on reality's terms, folks. This is not the situation we're in anymore. ICE has gotten everything they want. They are unfettered. They're being told they have absolute immunity to commit any crime they see fit to commit, to harass any person, to snuff out the life of anyone. If you deny Donald Trump what he wants, you will be a target. Let's get it together, folks. What do you think? I invite you to this conversation. Let's have it in the comments below this video. You can also call the voicemail line, 714-576-4054. And of course, as always, you can email me daily at dollemore.com. Please consider, if you have it within your financial means, you have $2 a month, you can help support and produce what I do here. You can take part in these videos being published and spreading the message. Become a channel member on YouTube, click the join button below the video, or go over to patreon.com/IDoubtItPodcast.
Well, first, is ICE arresting U.S. citizens? ICE arrests U.S. citizens every day.
Let's stick with this theme about Donald Trump's mass secret police force being his personal Gestapo that is now filled to the brim with Proud Boys and insurrectionists and people who were convicted of seditious conspiracy against the nation, against the Constitution of the United States, to which they've now ostensibly sworn oath to uphold and support and defend. I'm tired of being labeled or having been labeled an alarmist. Oh, come on, Jesse. That's not true. None of this is going to happen. You're just being alarmist. Donald Trump's not going to do this. He's not going to outfit a personal police force that is loyal only to him to harass and deport and murder citizen and non-citizen alike. That's not going to happen. Come on. Here we are. And Donald Trump's borders are the mush-mouthed dildo with ears, Tom Homan, once again taken to Fox News to inform us that, yeah, you know what? Let's make it clear, he says. ICE detains citizens all the time. They can do so if they have reasonable suspicion. The same person who defends the murder of RENEE Good, the walking up to dudes at a gas station getting gas, asking them where they're born, people on the sidewalk, where are you born? Where are your papers? Prove to us you are worthy of Donald Trump's grace to be in the country. That same guy is saying, yeah, if we have reasonable suspicion, these vague and nebulous terms that mean nothing to these people because they're not bound by rules. They believe they have the ultimate unlimited immunity, absolute immunity from all of the crimes that they will commit against citizen and non-citizen alike. Watch the aforementioned mush mouth dildo with ears who possibly just got done just gargling a boot full of whiskey before his hit with Will Cain, the other spindly armed little dipshit who thinks he's a big tough man, on Fox News.
What we'll start with, that they are ICE targeting American citizens. And the latest example that they're using is this man in Minneapolis, taken out of his home, wearing only boxers, looks like a towel wrapped around his shoulder. I think he is a Hmong immigrant to the United States, but who is in fact an American citizen. What do you say to the facts of this case, Tom Homan?
Well, let's look at the facts of that case. So ICE was looking for 2 illegal aliens with criminal convictions. One, sexual assault of a child. The other one, domestic violence, to include obscenity and sexual assault. So both these people shouldn't be walking the streets of this nation. So ICE did a target enforcement operation, pulled over a vehicle that was licensed to one of these sexual predators. The driver of the car was identified as not being one of them. But his statement to the officer was, the guy you're looking for is at the house right now. I left it. I just left that house. So ICE went to the house where these 2 people reportedly living. And they went in there and they located this individual. This individual who matched the description, but they couldn't verify his identity because he was uncooperative. He failed to do a quick fingerprint check. He failed to do facial recognition. So ICE detained him till they found out who he was. And let's make it clear. ICE can detain a U.S. citizen if they have probable cause of this person may have committed a crime. Detainment, short detainment and questioning, all you need is reasonable suspicion. If they're going to actually arrest a person and charge them, they need probable cause.
I was going to say, Tom, you don't even need probable cause for a detention. You only need reasonable suspicion.
You see, the problem lies in the fact that reasonable suspicion or probable cause that they committed a crime, they believe that if you're exercising your First Amendment right under the Constitution to redress your government of your grievances, to peaceably assemble, to practice your free speech, that's a crime. That if you speak out against Donald Trump and his policies, that's a crime. That you're an insurrectionist if you exercise your First Amendment right, if you speak loudly, if you insult ICE, if you call them the masked fucking cowards that they are to their face, that's a crime according to this moron who, I guess it's not a crime to take $50,000 in a bag at a restaurant as a bribe after promising you're going to secure sweetheart deals for certain companies. The corruption is just something to marvel at if it didn't harm us all. I'm not an alarmist. I am a truth teller. I've had my eye on this from the very beginning and have been correct, along with many, many, many others in my space. It's not me alone who's the genius or the brilliant prognosticator of things to come. It was very clear what was going to happen. If you've read even a scant portion of Project 2025, this has been the fucking plan all along. To create a white ethno-state in the United States. And Donald Trump's hand-picked individuals who are loyal only to him, not loyal to the law, not loyal to our system of jurisprudence, not loyal to the norms and standards of policing, certainly not loyal to the Constitution. They're only loyal to Donald Trump. He's placed them there for that reason, so they can achieve his objective of a white ethno-state. Here's Tom Homan saying, yeah, we arrest U.S. citizens every single day.
Ascertain someone's identity. You have any idea what percentage of people you're detaining turn out to be American citizens?
Well, first, is ICE arresting U.S. citizens? ICE arrests U.S. citizens every day for trafficking and smuggling and drug distribution and weapons dealing. ICE enforces 400 laws and statutes. So, yeah, ICE do arrest U.S. citizens. Are we targeting U.S. citizens as part of this immigration enforcement? Not unless you are protesters that crossed the line and committed impediment, interference, assault, So, to say we're targeting U.S. citizens for immigration enforcement, that's just false accusation. But U.S. citizens are arrested if they violate the law and violate one of the 400 statutes that ICE, enforces.
All right.
So, yeah, ICE do arrest, he says. Where are those cases, Tom? What's the outcome of those? I mean, obviously you secured indictments, right? Through the grand jury proceedings, through our normal system of justice. You would have evidence to back those things up, right? The trafficking and all of the other crimes that you listed. Where are the many, many, many cases that you're bringing? Instead, what we see is ICE chasing DoorDash drivers for the crime of being brown, chasing them into the houses of community members in Minneapolis. We see them approaching people of color. They're not walking up to me getting gas in Minneapolis. They're walking up to black dudes. They're walking up to black ladies and asking them where they were born. This isn't about reasonable suspicion. Speaking with an accent in the United States isn't a suspicious thing. It doesn't give you reasonable suspicion. In fact, you know what's really interesting about this is I've seen so many of these videos, hundreds and hundreds of these videos I've watched. I have forced myself against my better emotional judgment to do so, to watch these ghouls who speak in Spanish accents. They don't have your standard American white guy dialect like I have. They have an accent, a discernible accent, and they're asking other people with accents for their papers, because this isn't about the law. This isn't about immigration. This is about creating a white ethno-state. And this dull goon, Tom Homan, it would be a very dull spear, but he is the tip of the spear for this for Donald Trump. Another dull knife in the drawer. They're just racists. They are just white supremacists. They want to effectuate a white Christian nationalist nation with their particular flavor of Christianity being the cause, being the director of how we operate in this country, what things we value in this country. So when I say that they want to take away women's right to vote, it's not alarmist. It's part of the pattern and practice, the standard operating procedure of their ideology. The same church that Pete Hegseth goes to here in Washington, D.C. on Capitol Hill is pastored by, has been seeded by Douglas Wilson, who believes that women are just people that people come out of and that they don't deserve the right to vote. This is what they want. It's not alarmist to call it what it is. For me, it's alarmist to stick your fucking head in the sand and ignore the clear and present danger that lies before us. What do you think? I'll leave it there. I've been waiting for this for a long time, Kelly told podcaster Jesse Dollemore in a December 9th video. I go to his church almost every Sunday, and I miss him every time. So this was a long time coming. Speaking of Pete Hegseth's church and the church in general and this fake fealty to some kind of a Christian denomination that these ghouls would like to have you believe is the true measure of Christianity. Even though scripture after scripture after scripture after scripture after scripture in the red letters of the New Testament, the actual words of Jesus are an admonition of taking care of the poor and the sick and the oppressed. Come unto me, Jesus said. And now Kristi Noem, after this group of protesters entered a church in Minneapolis, they are just beside apoplectic. Oh, good Lord, what are we going to do? Antifa's coming after the churches. These these martyr-minded morons who believe that we're next, it's going to be our church next, that people come to hold us accountable for our crimes against humanity in thought and in action. These fake Christians. Kristi Noem was on with Greta Van Susteren on Newsmax. Just a couple of fucking ugly ghouls. Ugly in spirit, ugly in countenance, ugly in appearance. Just gross. It's a fucking circle jerk of ass-hattery every moment on Newsmax. And Greta Van Susteren begins to talk about acting field director David Easterwood. Don't say his name. Oh, you're doxing him, she said. Oh, thank you for not saying his name. You just don't understand that the more you say his name, the more danger he's in. We're going to get to that. Actually, let's play the clip here, and then we'll address it on the other side.
The church, I'm going to go to the church. That's a particularly, troubling issue because you've got the pastor. I purposely didn't name him, but he at least had been reported he's associated with ICE. And
thank you for not naming him, because people don't realize that when you keep naming someone over and over again, you increase the threats against them. And that pastor really did a remarkable thing there, trying to protect his parishioners.
And even the parishioners, I imagine, are feel intimidated and.
They did, and there's going to be arrests in the next several hours, Greta. There will be arrests tied to that, and people will be brought to justice for how they violated the law in that situation.
Wait. When you name someone over and over, it increases the threats to them? Is that right? Is that a fact? I had no idea I had that kind of power. By naming someone like it's some kind of a horror movie, what's the horror movie where you say the guy's name in the mirror 3 times and he shows up, like Candyland or Candy? I don't know. Anyway, so that's it. That's all you got to do is say the name, and then there's threats that increase. Kristi Noem, Donald Trump, Pam Bondi, Stephen Miller, J.D. Vance, Kash Patel. Any others? Who did I miss? Marco Rubio. Pete Hegseth. Am I increasing the risk to them by saying their name, Kristi Noem? You fucking moron. Is that what I'm doing? If only I had some, you know what's happening here, right? You get what I'm doing? If only there was some video I had of David Easterwood announcing himself and his name and his position in a public setting. You know what would be even better is if I had that video and Kristi Noem was right there with him when he did it. Oh, that would be wonderful. If only I had that. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Secretary Noem, for your leadership and for taking the time to join us here today. Your presence underscores the importance of the work we do every day in service to the mission of the Department of Homeland Security and the American people. My name is David Easterwood. I'm the Acting Field Office Director for Enforcement and Removal Operations, ERO St. Paul. I am honored to lead the officers and staff of ICRO across Minnesota, North Dakota, South Dakota, Iowa, and Nebraska. The men and women of ERO St. Paul embody the highest standards of professionalism, integrity, and dedication. Every day, they face complex challenges with determination and resolve, ensuring the safety of our communities and the enforcement of our nation's immigration laws. Their work is critical to the security of the United States, and I am proud to lead such an outstanding team. Across Minnesota, North Dakota, South Dakota, Nebraska, and Iowa, our efforts have made a profound impact. Whether it's apprehending criminal illegal aliens who pose a threat to public safety, managing detention operations with care and professionalism, or collaborating with federal, state, and local partners, our officers demonstrate every day what it means to serve with honor and dedication.
I'm out of breath having watched. He doxed himself. He put himself in danger. He's inviting threats. Oh my God. That is remarkable. I can't believe that David Easterwood, the acting director of ICE in the field office of St. Paul, just did that to himself. I cannot even believe it. That is remarkable. His name is a matter of public record. Listen, I know that they really want to be Donald Trump's secret police, but you do not have the right to anonymity when you are effectuating the murder of American citizens, the disappearance of American citizens and immigrants in this country. You don't get to be secret while doing that. That's not how it works. You're a public servant on the public payroll. You're a public servant, David Easterwood, acting director of the St. Paul, Minneapolis ICE office, David Easterwood. The threats are just increasing. You see, they don't want him named, but they're all over naming anybody who protests, who exercises their First Amendment rights, even inside of a church to which they were invited. This is from the Daily Caller, Tucker Carlson's white supremacist rag. Get a load of this headline. Anti-ICE agitator who harassed Minnesota Christians also heckled Pete Hegseth outside church. You'll remember this, friend of the show, friend of mine, Will Kelly, telling Pete Hegseth that he's going to learn how to do a pull-up in prison and calling him the traitorous fucking coward that he is.
Hey, you treasonous traitor! Hey, you murderer! You're gonna learn how to do a pull-up in prison! You're gonna learn how to do a pull-up in prison, you traitorous dog! You cowardly, treasonous murderer! Shame on you, you traitor! Shame on you, you coward! Traitor! You shitbag! You can't even do a pull-up, you drunk! You treasonous traitor! Hey, you murderer! You're gonna learn how to do a pull-up in prison! You're gonna learn how to do a pull-up in prison, you traitorous dog! You cowardly, treasonous murderer! Shame on you, traitor! Shame on you, coward! Traitor! You shitbag! You can't even do a pull-up, you drunk dog! You traitorous dog! Hey, learn how to do a pull-up, you bitch-ass traitor! You can't even do a pull-up and you think you're an alpha male? Fuck you, Nazi!
So that moment that you just watched, that vertical video moment from Will Kelly, DeWoke Farmer, we'll put a link to his GoFundMe so you can support his efforts to continue to hold ICE accountable, to continue to hold the mask secret police accountable. If you have $5, if you're unable to be in the streets, support someone who is in the streets. This is the article from the Daily Caller about that incident that now, oh my God, he was in a church and also he was at this other church. Oh, we're seeing a pattern here from this investigative journalist from the Daily Caller, the white supremacist rag. One anti-ICE agitator who yelled at children and families during a worship service Sunday in St. Paul, Minnesota, has also harassed congregants at Secretary of War Pete Hegseth's church in Washington, D.C. William Kelly, who shares video of himself clashing with law enforcement on social media under the DeWoke Farmer, was among the left-wing mob that disrupted services at City's Church in St. Paul. Earlier videos show Kelly outside Christchurch, D.C., the Capitol Hill church where Pete Hegseth attends service, calling congregants, fucking Nazis and spineless little bitches. Where's he wrong? Where is he wrong, white supremacist who wrote this article for the Daily Caller? You're going to learn how to do a pull-up in prison. I've just showed you him saying that. I've been waiting for this for a long time, Kelly told podcaster Jesse Dollemore in a December 9th video. I go to his church almost every Sunday and I miss him every time. So this was a long time coming. Families with young children at Christchurch, D.C. have to walk past profanity-laden harassment as they enter and exit, according to Joe RENEE, a founding pastor of City's Church and current pastor at Christchurch in Moscow, Idaho, which established the D.C. church. We're going to get to that. Don't worry. We're going to get to that. One member went to, oh, this is great. This is so, we're going to end it with this chef's kiss with this article. All these steely-eyed warriors, all of these pull yourself up by your bootstraps, all of these excuse makers for the murder of an American citizen at the hands of ICE, all of these people who are making excuses for the violation of due process laws in the United States. They are, oh my God, somebody went to the hospital because a loud noise was made. One member went to the hospital after a protester let loose with the full force of a bullhorn in his ear. He wrote Monday for World, "The protests continued during the worship service as the agitators attempted to drown out the psalm singing and sermon with noise and sound amplification while we worship the Jesus, while we worship the white Jesus," they said. This is Douglas Wilson's church. If you're not aware, Douglas Wilson is a white Christian nationalist who believes, among other things, that women are people that people come out of. We'll start there, but then also that the 19th Amendment to the Constitution should be repealed and women should not have the right to vote. Suffrage should be abolished for ladies and only be for men, ostensibly white Christian men. Let's start, though, with the who women are to the pastor of the church that we're talking about here that Pete Hegseth goes to.
A big focus of his Christian movement is on a patriarchal society where men are dominant and women are expected to submit to their husbands.
Women are the kind of people that people come out of.
So you just think they're meant to have babies? That's it. They're just a vessel.
No, it doesn't take any talent to simply reproduce biologically. The wife and mother, who is the chief executive of the home, is entrusted with 3 or 4 or 5 eternal souls.
I'm here as a working journalist, and I'm a mom of 3.
Good for you.
Is that an issue for you?
No, it's not automatically an issue.
Women are the kind of people that people come out of. You see Pamela Brown's face there? Yeah. We're all Pamela Brown in this moment watching this dipshit. This is a church who sends me books, all kinds of books, like I'm going to review them or interview these dipshits, these white Christian nationalists who deserve a fate far worse than they receive right now. They're in the spotlight now. They're in the power structure now, but you will not be forever, Douglas Wilson, you fucking ghoul, you antithetical monster to the actual philosophies of the man you claim to worship as God. Jesus would have been flipping over tables in your church if he were here today, calling for the abolition of the 19th Amendment, calling for women to not have a voice in our society of self-governance. So cry me a motherfucking river about your whiny fake Christian church being protested. That's not a church, that's a political organization. You're advocating for political remedy to things you don't believe. You're a political organization. You're not a church. You don't espouse the philosophies of Jesus the Christ that you claim you do. You're Nazis. You're white nationalists. You're Christian nationalists. You are ghouls. And you know what? More power to Will Kelly. Thank you, sir, for your patriotism. Thank you, Will Kelly, DeWolk Farmer, for remembering your oath to the Constitution that you swore you would uphold when you joined the Army and were a combat vet in Iraq and Afghanistan. The thing that conveniently gets left out of the Daily Caller article, that he is a patriot to the nation, who risked his very life in service to this country in uniform, something that Donald Trump never did, something that Stephen Miller never did, Something that Tom Homan never did, that Greg Bovino never did. They are just cowering, fucking physical weaklings. Stupid, cowering weaklings. What do you think? Again, I'm going to put a link to we'll pin a comment to Will's GoFundMe campaign. Now is as good a time. There's never been a better time to donate $5 or $10. If you have a spare hundo laying around, support his efforts to be on the ground. He has moved his life, uprooted his life to protest ICE, to stand in the gap for marginalized and abused and oppressed and murdered communities in the United States under Donald Trump. He's doing solid, patriotic work, actual patriotism. If you have a little bit, support it. I appreciate you very much.
Why is it the Gulf of Mexico? It should be the Gulf of America. I was going to call it the Gulf of Trump, but I thought that I would be killed if I did that. I wanted to do it. I wanted to. My people work so hard. Sir, I don't think it'll look too good. I'm telling you, it's a good thing.
Donald Trump, on his way out the door to go to Davos to give an incomprehensibly idiot speech, just a batshit crazy, hard to follow nonsense, rambling screed given by Donald Trump. On his way out to go do that, he did the same thing in the White House press briefing room yesterday. That was the most lunatic moment for Donald Trump that we've seen up to this point. Like, he is slipping away. His grasp on reality is just shattered. It's cracked. He is no longer someone to be relied upon for leadership, either just general leadership as a boss, but also as a leader who is supposed to defend the Constitution, to see that the laws are faithfully executed as president of the United States. And he made everything about himself. Everything always is about Donald Trump. I'll give you one little taste of him talking about he wanted to name the Gulf of Mexico rather than naming it the Gulf of America. He had a plan, but it was talked out of it by his staff to name it the Gulf of Trump. Republicans are silent. Oh, he's just joking. Ignoring all of the things they said were jokes that didn't end up being jokes, including attempting to overthrow the United States government, attempting to reverse the results of an election in 2020. They decried it then, and then months later, they bent the knee to their leader, Donald Trump. Here he is, talking about the Gulf of Trump, and then we're going to go on to even making the murder of RENEE good about himself. Watch this.
That's what happened to me. I was doing great with Biden. The whole campaign was against Biden. All the money was spent against Biden, and all of a sudden I got Kamala. Everyone said, who the hell is she? But that didn't work out too well for them, but never happened before. We are about lots of firsts. Designated English as the official language of the United States of America. We did that very powerfully. And while we're at it, we also took the Gulf of Mexico, and now it's the Gulf of America. Because we have 92% of the shoreline. It always bothered me. I'd say, you know, we have most of the shoreline. Mexico has a small percentage, talks about 8%. We have 92%. And I said, why is it the Gulf of Mexico? It should be the Gulf of America. I was going to call it the Gulf of Trump, but I thought that I would be killed if I did that. I wanted to do it. I wanted to. My people work so hard. Sir, I don't think it'll look too good. I'm telling you, it's a good thing. And it'll be hotter than ever, I said. No, but I decided not to do that. I'm joking, you know, when I say that. I was not going to call it the Gulf of Trump. Because tomorrow it'll be, Trump wanted to call it the Gulf of Trump, but he was rebuffed by his people. My people don't rebuff me too much. The Gulf of Trump, that does have a good ring, though. Maybe we could do that. It's not too late. No, we have the Gulf of America now. It's great. Our country is proud for the attack on Venezuela.
This is, I mean, even the worst despots in our political order today don't act like this. Donald Trump is special and unique in that way, which should give him great joy that he is special and unique. The man who was not hugged by his father enough and hugged too much by his doting moron mother. They ruined him. And by virtue of that, they ruined the world. When asked about the woman that he classifies as the domestic terrorist, his administration has labeled her time and time and time again a domestic terrorist, but also that it was tragic and he's really sad about it because apparently he's sad when domestic terrorists are murdered. Make it make sense. He's talking about how the people who were there on the scene screaming shame after they witnessed her killing, that they were paid protesters, that nobody would act like that if not professional paid protesters. I'm not a paid protester. I spent my own money to fly to Minneapolis, to stay in a hotel, to get up each day and go to the Whipple Federal Building, to go and interview people on the street, including Minnesota officials. I'm not paid to do that. I'm not surrounded by anybody who was paid to do that. But Donald Trump, he can't conceive of a reality where someone would be so outraged that they would exercise their First Amendment right to protest the murder of citizens and the rounding up and disappearing of community members. Watch Donald Trump. Then we'll move on to him making the whole thing about himself.
And we're met with paid agitators and insurrectionists, troublemakers. They're paid. You know, when the woman was shot, and I felt terribly about that. And I understand both sides of it. But when she was shot, there was another woman that was screaming shame, 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 right? You saw it so loud. It was like a professional opera singer. She was so loud and so professional. She wasn't a woman that was hurt, like, oh, my heart's injured. She was a professional. She's shame, shame. She's screaming shame, shame. I said, that's not a normal person. That's a professional. These are professional agitators and professional people that want to see our country do badly. But that's not happening because we have the hottest country anywhere in the world, despite this stuff.
Opera singer? Loud noise? Of course people are outraged when they witness the murder of a protester who was doing nothing illegal, who at the time of her death was steering the vehicle away from Jonathan Ross. Don't mean to dox him by saying his name. He continued talking about ICE is going to be rough on people. And that I learned her dad was a great supporter, a big Trump fan, and then continues to just spill the drivel out of the empty fucking head about how it was about him. Someone is dead, an American, one of his constituents, and he can't think about anything other than how he's connected to the tragedy.
These are insurrectionists that are doing this work. And, you know, they're going to make mistakes sometimes. ICE is going to be too rough with somebody, or, you know, they're dealing with rough people. They're going to make a mistake sometimes. It can happen. We feel terribly. I felt horribly when I was told that the young woman who was had the tragedy, it's a tragedy, it's a horrible thing. Everybody would say, ICE would say the same thing. But when I learned her parents and her father in particular I hope he still is, but I don't know, was a tremendous Trump fan. He was all for Trump, loved Trump. And, you know, it's terrible. I was told that by a lot of people. They said, oh, he loves you. He was I hope he still feels that way. I don't know, it's hard situation. But her father was a tremendous, and parents were tremendous Trump fans. It's so sad. It just happens. It's terrible.
What kind of a ghoul makes the death of someone's child about themselves? Well, her he's a big fan. But when I learned her father I hope he still is, but I don't know, was a tremendous Trump fan. Where are decent Republicans? These people who claim to be deeply religious people, following the philosophies and the teachings and the commands of Jesus Christ. Where are they? Where's Mike Lee? good Mormon boy. Where's he? Where's Rand Paul? Where's Ted Cruz? He's so Christian. Where are they? They've bent the knee is where they are. Don't trip and fall. Donald Trump's dick might land right in your mouth, Ted Cruz. Then where will you be? I guess in your happy place. Worshipping Donald Trump at all costs, doing whatever he wants, whatever gives Donald Trump pleasure is what Ted Cruz and the rest of these fake fucking Christians are here to provide. It's gross. It is gross watching American political leaders supplant their oath to the Constitution, replacing it with Donald Trump. What Donald Trump wants, he gets. He wants Greenland, he gets it. He wants a $400 million jet from Qatar, he gets it. He wants $1.5 billion added to his net worth in 12 months of his second term. He gets it. We will say nothing. He will loot the treasury. He will profit off the presidency. We will say nothing. Yes, dear leader, take what you want. Do you want my wife Heidi, says Ted Cruz? You can have her, sir. Fucking cowards, weaklings. And MAGA, they're here for it too. They'd give him their wife too. They have no loyalty to anything other than Donald Trump. Not the Constitution, not good order and discipline, not norms. What Donald Trump wants, Donald Trump gets. And they're okay with it. They're not even ashamed of it. They have no dignity. Anyway, I'm going to go. I love and appreciate you. What do you want to say? You can say it in the comments below this video. You can also call the voicemail line 714-576-4054. And of course, as always, you can email me daily@dollemore.com. That was a whole bunch of stuff said in one breath that I'm still in the middle of. I appreciate you. If you appreciate what I do, the work I do, if you derive value from what I do, more than you get from someone else. If someone else does more for you, if it's a Pac-Man or a Brian Tyler Cohen, I don't even know what those guys got going on. But if someone out there provides you more value than me, support them. $2 a month goes a long way if somebody is able to marshal the size of their audience. And if I was able to, it would be a game changer. I would appreciate it very much. You can help support and produce the work we do here. Become a channel member on YouTube, click the join button below, or even better, go over to patreon.com/IDoubtIt podcast. Paid Mr. Trump $90.5 million, a $400 million jet, $867 million. This is a doozy. This is an amazing, Donald Trump is so comfortable in his projection. He's willing to call out Ilhan Omar for these fake numbers. They're, she's a $30 million now. That's her net worth. It has to be corrupt. It's so obvious that it's corrupt. She must be looked into because of $30 million. A lot of money, to be sure. We can't believe anything they say. I mean, you can't believe anything they say because everything is a lie and a conspiracy theory. But Donald Trump, while having enriched himself, which we're going to get to, the New York Times editorial board, the milquetoast New York Times is even saying, holy shit, we got a problem on our hands. The non-alarmist New York Times is saying we got a problem. We got a problem. But I want to start with this. This is a clip in a Newsmax interview, or I always want to say Newsmax, even though it's News Nation. It's just another Newsmax, just another Fox News. They're hiring every reject conservative journalist they can find. Fucking News Nation. Dipshit, Chris Cuomo and Leland Vittert and Katie Pavlich, all of these just abject rejects. Interviewing Donald Trump. And he starts talking about Ilhan, what's he call her? Ilhan Omar. Ilhan Omar. It's Omar. He knows that she's a horrible person, that she's got this net worth and it's obviously corrupt, and we're going to look into her. And then we're going to get to the New York Times talking about his new net worth, which is up $1.5 billion almost in just 1 year. That's $1,500 million versus the 30 he claims Ilhan Omar has.
Something's wrong when a place like Minnesota, which is a good place, it's got a horrible governor, it's got horrible people. This Elon Omar is horrible. I mean, she comes from a country that doesn't even have a government. They have nothing. And she comes here and she lectures us on the Constitution. She's got constitutional rights. She's just horrible. Somebody said she's worth $30 million. Well, therefore, she's obviously a very dishonest person. And she should be looked at for that. So you have a couple of things. You have the money thing, and then you have the all of the fake nonsense going on and screaming. The people, they're so professional.
It's like that just wasn't about her. It's about Minnesota in general. They got very bad people. Horrible people, he says, about his constituents, about Americans, about citizens of the United States, and also people legally authorized to be here that he is now rounding up in an effort to create a white ethno-state. But all of this comes on the heels of something that was published yesterday in the pages of the New York Times from the editorial board. Again, the New York Times is verging on conservative in their approach to journalism, in their approach to looking the other way while Donald Trump commits crime after crime after crime. He is the Globe's new Hitler of this century, and yet they're slow on the uptick. So here is what they wrote yesterday. I'll read just a little bit from this, and then we'll move on. It is a remarkable thing. I want you, when you witness what I'm getting ready to show you, to remember what he just said about Ilhan Omar and her paltry, even if it's true, 30 million versus his 1,500 million. 1 year ago, Donald Trump took an oath to serve the American people. Instead, he has focused on using the presidency to enrich himself. How Trump has pocketed $1,408,500,000. And there he is, $1.5 billion. President Trump has never been a man to ask what he can do for his country. In his second term, as in his first, he is instead testing the limits on what his country can do for him. He has poured his energy and creativity into the exploitation of the presidency, into finding out just how much money people, corporations, and other nations are willing to put into his pockets in hopes of bending the power of the government to the service of their interests. A review by the editorial board, relying on analyses from news organizations, shows that Mr. Trump has used the office of the presidency to make at least $1.4 billion. We know this number to be an underestimate because some of his profits remain hidden from public view and they continue to grow. The Trumps have made at least $23 million from licensing Mr. Trump's name overseas since his reelection. A hotel in Oman, an office tower in Western India, a golf course on the outskirts of Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. These are a few of the more than 20 overseas projects the Trump organization is pursuing, often requiring cooperation with foreign governments. These deals have made millions for the Trumps, according to Reuters, and the administration has sometimes treated those same governments favorably. One example, the administration agreed to lower its threatened tariffs on Vietnam about a month after a Trump organization project broke ground on a $1.5 billion golf complex outside of Hanoi. Vietnamese officials ignored their own laws to fast-track the project. The Trumps are pocketing $28 million from Amazon for a documentary about Melania Trump. Notice the dollar sign, the dollars, stacks of dollar bills are growing here. Amazon paid far more for the rights to Melania than the next highest bidder, and far more than the company has previously paid for similar projects, according to the Wall Street Journal. Jeff Bezos, Amazon's chairman and one of the world's richest people, has many reasons to curry favor with the administration, including antitrust regulation, Amazon's defense contracts, and his space company's federal contracts. Major tech and media companies have paid Mr. Trump $90.5 million in settlements since his reelection, and the stacks of dollars continue to accumulate. The settlements have come from X, ABC News, Meta, YouTube, and Paramount. None of them were justified on the merits. Paramount, for example, agreed to pay the president $16 million for what he claimed was the deceptive editing of a 2024 Kamala Harris interview. The editing was a normal part of journalism. 3 weeks later, the Federal Communications Commission's approved an $8 billion merger with Skydance. Qatar gave Mr. Trump a $400 million jet that he will use as Air Force One while president, and plans to take with him after leaving office as the stacks of dollars accumulate past $300 million. Mr. Trump seemed to acknowledge that the gift would influence his treatment of Qatar. "We are going to protect this country," he said in Doha shortly after Qatar offered the plane. Mr. Trump has said he expects to transfer the plane to his presidential library after leaving office. The Trumps have made at least $867 million through various cryptocurrencies. Mr. Trump's sale of crypto has been by far his biggest moneymaker, according to Reuters. People who hope to influence federal policy, including foreigners, can buy his family's coins, effectively transferring money to the Trumps, and the deals are often secret. One that has become public, a United Arab Emirates-backed investment firm, announced plans last year to deposit $2 billion into a Trump firm, 2 weeks before the president gave the country access to advanced chips. The dollars continue to stack, moving on to 1.4. All told, Mr. Trump has profited from his return to the presidency by an amount of money equal to 16,822 times the median income of a U.S. household. Mr. Trump's hunger for wealth is brazen. Throughout the nation's history, presidents of both parties have taken care to avoid even the appearance of profiting from public service. This president gleefully squeezes American corporations, flaunts gifts from foreign governments, and celebrates the rapid growth of his own fortune. When President Harry Truman left office in 1953, he did not even own a car. He and his wife returned to Missouri by train and lived for a time on his Army pension. He refused to take any job that he regarded as commercializing his public service, explaining, quote, "I knew that they were not interested in hiring Harry Truman, the person, but what they wanted to hire was the former president of the United States." Mr. Trump has said that when he leaves office, he plans to take with him a $400 million Boeing 747 that was a gift from Qatar. And then I'm going to end here. This tally focuses on Mr. Trump's documented gains. The $1.4 billion figure is a minimum, not a full accounting. It is probable, not possible here. They're using this word very, very specifically. It is probable that Mr. Trump has collected several $100 million in additional profits from his cryptocurrency ventures over the past year, over the past 12 months, several $100 million in additional profits. The Trumps have acknowledged as much when the Financial Times asked Eric Trump, one of the president's sons, about its estimated value of the company's crypto gains. He said they were probably even larger than the news organization thought. So look, the projection is just wild. It is pathological. There's something wrong with Donald Trump that he feels so emboldened to commit open corruption in public because he knows, one, that there's little that can be done based on the Supreme Court's ruling that he has virtual absolute immunity from crimes committed while in office. He's a king, apparently. But also he knows he's whipped these weak bitch-ass Republicans into shape so much that they will say nothing. Again, he could ravage their wives. He could rape their daughters, and they would thank him for the pleasure of having him do that to their family. They are cowards and weaklings and rubes and traitors to the country. They are traitors to their word, to their oath, to their solemn vow to the Constitution. They're traitors to their families and the betterment of all of our families. All for Donald. What are they getting for it? Nothing. They are getting betrayed. Look at the long list of people that Donald Trump has turned his back on. Marjorie Taylor Greene wasn't sufficiently loyal Bill Cassidy, Tom Tillis, all of these people. What are they getting from it other than betrayal? They're certainly not getting $1,500 million in a year. They're certainly not getting $400 million jets from terrorist nations like Qatar. Strange. Does make you wonder what's in it for them, though. What do you think? You can tell me below in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. You can also call the voicemail line, 714-576-4054. And of course, as always, you can email me daily@dollemore.com. I love and appreciate you very much. I will see you next time. I'm going to go save my voice. Be genuine and take care of one another.